We have some breaking news. Apparently, the New York Knicks tried to swing an all-star trade, and they were this close from getting it done. But at the last second, they walked away from the trade negotiations. We're going to look into this, who they tried to trade for, and why the trade negotiations fell apart. All of this and more today. But before we get started, guys, about 89% of you guys watching this video right now are not subscribed. We are on the road to 5,000 subscribers, and we could really use your support. If you like content like this, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button because it could really support all the great content that we're creating for you. And now, let's get started. The Knicks apparently walked away from a Paul George trade. That's right, the Knicks had a chance to get PG-13, one of the best two-way wings in the game today on the New York Knicks, but they decided against it. Now, this was first reported by MSG Networks, where New York had a chance to get Paul George, but said it was too expensive. Now, Alan Hahn said on Monday's episode of Bart and Hahn that New York had a chance to get Paul George, but said it was too expensive. Once they opened discussions with the Clippers, it was apparent that George wanted an extension. So the trade is now off the table. This is real major news here because Paul George and the New York Knicks have been linked for the last few weeks when it was reported and announced by Ian Begley himself that the Knicks were an interested team in PG-13. And now, apparently they had a chance to get Paul George as part of the New York Knicks, but they didn't swing on the trade because Paul George wanted an extension at the last minute and the Knicks didn't want to give it to him. This is Alan Hahn's exact words on the matter for Paul George and him going to the New York Knicks. They had a chance to get Paul George. They said it was too expensive. They don't want to do it. They've already backed out of that. They talked to the Clippers. The Clippers gave what it would cost. Then Paul George said, but I want an extension. And they said, we are not doing that. And they walked away. So Paul George, as far as now goes, is off the table. I don't think you can get more clear than that. Paul George, PG-13, one of the best wings in the game today when healthy, is off the table for the New York Knicks. And it seems like they had everything in order to make that trade for Paul George. But at the last second, when Paul George said, I want that extension, the New York Knicks said, no, I'm good. I don't want to give that to you. I'm walking away. So they walked away from the Paul George trade, essentially rejecting the trade offer by doing so. I'm not sure what the trade offer was, but it seems like that was accepted. The only issue was Paul George asking for that extension. And for good reason, the New York Knicks walked away. Paul George is eligible for a 4-year, $220 million extension. That's why the New York Knicks walked away. There is no way you're giving Paul George that money or even close to that money. I don't care what Paul George thinks he's worth, what his play thinks he's worth in regards to when he's healthy. The fact of the matter is he's not been healthy, and that has always hurt his trade value. Now, another report that came out during this time from the LA Times from Andrew Grief and Broderick Turner was that the New York Knicks and the Clippers had conversations about a potential Paul George trade. But here is the biggest surprise for me, that the talks were initiated by New York. So I knew that the New York Knicks and the Clippers had trade negotiations and discussions about Paul George. That much had been reported. But I had no idea that the New York Knicks were the party to go ahead and initiate conversations for a Paul George trade. I didn't know that had anything to do with it, which makes it a little bit more interesting here. Because clearly if New York Knicks initiated conversations to trade for Paul George, then clearly they had something on the table that the Clippers wanted and that the Knicks were okay with trading away for Paul George. who, by the way, is set to make $46 million this year. And even if the New York Knicks do not extend him next year, he might be a rental because he has a player option for next year. If he doesn't opt into it, he's a rental. He can explore free agency. Or if he does opt into it, then you're paying him around $49 million. So either way, you're taking a chance if you trade for Paul George. I'm sure that had something to do with Leon Rose and the Knicks organization giving a quick pause here on the Paul George situation and not wanting to give up too much and promise too much to a player who's on the wrong side of 33. This guy has missed more games in the last 3 seasons than I care to remember. And the biggest thing is, when the lights are brightest in the playoffs, usually he shrinks. But even if he doesn't shrink, you have to be available to shrink, right? He missed key games in the playoffs. He missed playoff series at times. We have to take that into account when you look to trade for somebody of Paul George's caliber. While George is one of the most talented two-way wings in the league, and this is reported by Bleacher Report, his recent injury history has made him a risky player to commit to. The 33-year-old has missed significant time in each of the past 3 seasons, and he was limited to 56 games this past year after a knee injury forced him to sit out the end of the regular season and the Clippers' first-round playoff series. Again, he misses key big moments when you need him most. That's the thing about trading for Paul George. Even if you trade for him and you were to get him and he was healthy and he gave you what he gave you during the regular season, you'd have to pray and hope that he is available for your team during the playoffs. Because if he's not, you've basically traded likely a significant haul to get Paul George. And now when you need him the most, probably the reason you traded for him, he's not there. He's not available. He's not available to help your team get to the next level. But we don't know all the moves the New York Knicks are going to make yet. The offseason has just started. And though they've been quiet, they've been loud in regards to what they would accept and what they would not accept. And something they're not going to accept is 141 games played in the last 3 seasons. There is no way anybody is going to accept that. You don't trade for that. You don't build around that. You certainly don't give up significant assets for that. I'm just curious, though, what the trade was. Because if Paul George just asking for that extension was the issue and the only caveat to why the trade didn't happen, then I would love to know what the trade actually was, because that goes a long way in telling you what the New York Knicks are comfortable with giving away in a trade for a star. Or maybe in this case with Paul George, a superstar. The man is an 8-time All-Star. You have to get him that. I really, really like this move from management here. They could have made a swing for Paul George and added him to the roster. I don't know what the package would have been, but another sign with Leon Rose. I'm going to say it again. If a trade is too good to be true, or at the last minute, and you can clearly see here, it looked like the trade was basically all signed up and agreed for. The only thing was Paul George did this. I want an extension. And then the Knicks said, nope, we're not doing that. Leon always has these moments where he draws a line in the sand and he says, I'm going to go this far. And if you want anything more than that, I'm out. And again here, Paul George wanted an extension. I'm out. Donovan Mitchell trades. They wanted more first-round picks than Leon was comfortable with. I'm out. Zach LaVine. It was rumored that they wanted a significant package for him back from the New York Knicks. Again, Leon was out. It's not that Leon doesn't want to add these players. I don't think that's the case. I just think Leon wants to add these players if it helps to benefit the Knicks. If you're gutting your roster and giving away significant assets to get one of these players, then you can make the argument it's not helping your team, it's hurting your team. And I think Leon Rose is balancing that in regards to the moves the New York Knicks are making. That's why a lot of the reports have come out recently that the New York Knicks would be comfortable in running it back. Overpaying somebody who's past his prime and past his age is not the recipe to success. I think the Knicks have another move coming, and I think they're being very shrewd and smart in regards to what conversations they're having around the league and what stars they want to trade for. More than anything else, this situation has confirmed that the New York Knicks are comfortable with running it back. If they didn't force a move for Paul George when they clearly could have, then that means they're being patient and they're clearly continuing their patient roster building approach. And that means no superstar trades that don't make sense for the New York Knicks. This is not the New York Knicks management of old days. This is a new management. They're a little bit more risk averse and greedy in regards to the fact that they want to get a star but not give up too much. Some stars sound nice on paper but don't exactly fit the team right now. Paul George is a perfect example of a star that sounds great. On paper, fits exactly what the New York Knicks need. But when you look at the actuality and reality of what he gives you when healthy, it doesn't make sense. I'm extremely happy the Knicks walked away from this trade and essentially rejected it because it was the right move in my eyes. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a comment below. Smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.